Welcome to the Natural History Cupboard. Come on in.
And welcome back to the Natural History Cupboard podcast, the place where the weird and wonderful parts of the natural world come together. I'm your host, Gareth, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Aaron. Aaron, what have you been up to?
Not much this week because it's the last week of the winter holiday. So
Yeah.
it's been all about catching up with my side of the family who we hadn't seen yet. It's been all about getting ready for me to go back to work, for Atta to get back to work, and for our little girl to go back to school. So it's all, I mean, you've seen the house, it's utter chaos at the moment. So yeah, it is what it is. But we have been out for a cycle. We did manage to get out on the Tarka Trail for a cycle ride.
Nice.
The three of us, and we got to see some really cool riparian bird life. Atta told me that she just saw a cormorant basically neck a fish, which is always cool to see. And then by the time I looked, the cormorant was on this kind of tiny spit of sand in the middle of the river. Tide was out, and he was doing that typical cormorant kind of pose when they're sunning themselves to dry themselves off after diving. Yeah, so really cool. That was around sunset as well.
Do you know
so
why
really
they
cool.
do that, as opposed to just, continuing on?
I don't know. My assumption was that they are drying their feathers off.
Yep. But unlike a lot of other aquatic birds, they don't waterproof, or they can't waterproof their feathers.
Oh, I didn't know
They
that.
don't have that sort of waterproofing oil, so they can only go for so long before they have to come out and dry their feathers off.
I didn't know that.
Nowhere near as like the level of water that comes off like a duck's back or something.
And then they choose to go and sit out on that rock at Mort, off the coast of Mort Point with the waves pummeling it.
But they've got to go with wherever it's going to be best,
Yeah.
And the food might be brilliant just off that.
Oh, I expect it is. I've seen some pretty wicked species around there. What about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I've done the exact opposite. We've been everywhere and nowhere and all sorts. No, we went like I say, it's been the last week, so I thought, okay, I'm going to fit in as much as I can before I go back to work. So I took my son fossil hunting. With mixed results, shall we say?
Oh yeah,
we went to Charmouth. The day was one of those days where I got very annoyed at everything around because I'd planned it to get there on time. We got to the parking spot. We were the first people there, and I got out the car, and it's one of those parking machines that you can either pay by phone or you can pay with coins. And I didn't have the exact amount of coins.
Oh no!
Of course,
there's no signal there.
No, and there's no signal, so I couldn't use the phone thing. And at the same time, there was another person who pulled up, and they were having the same issue. They couldn't get it to work, and I went, fine. We'll go to the there's a corner shop down that way. We'll drive down there. We'll park up, go to the corner shop, buy a can of Coke or something, and get them to. I had a £5 note in my wallet, and I thought, brilliant. I'll get them to break that.
Oh no! You got a parking ticket.
No.
Okay.
No, drove there.
All right.
Went into the shop. Went to the thing. I actually went and got another another £10 out of an ATM, and I went to the woman. Could you break the 5 or something as small as possible? Oh no, I don't have any change. Felt like going. You're a shop. You probably have some change in there. You're just not bothering. Thanks. Okay, so we'll go back and we'll try with what I've got. I've got enough for like an hour's worth of parking. Even if we just go to the little museum there or something, and not necessarily go fossil hunting. He's only 4; it doesn't really matter. He's not going to be up on the rocks or anything like that. Get back down there, and by the time we've got there, every single person on the planet has turned up.
No.
And I'm driving around the car park, and it got to a point I went, I'm sorry, mate, we're going to have to probably just call it quits. And then basically people had decided to park wherever, and I thought, you know what, stop it. I'm going to be one of those people. I'm going to park and just be inconsiderate, because everyone was parking so much space in between each other. It was just like, ugh. So we parked, paid for like an hour. I found another pound coin. I was like, good enough. I can get us a couple of hours now. Did that. Went down there. So many people. I hate going fossil hunting when there are that many people. It is just infuriating because everyone's just down there banging rocks together, and you're just like, no, that's not where the fossils are. They're over there for a start, and just bashing rocks together. You don't know what you're looking for, and it's infuriating. And we went down. We went and looked along the beachfront, and to be honest, he was more bothered about the waves coming in and that sort of thing. But we still had fun, and then we went to the little museum bit, and then went home. So we didn't really find very much. A couple of little Bellum nights and that. But later that week, we also then went to Peyton Zoo for the day.
Yeah.
Thought, why not? Let's do Peyton Zoo. Got some good footage of some of the animals. Annoyingly, the crocodile place is still closed in there.
Oh, I thought they'd opened it now.
No, that was my thought as well. That was my own foolish thought. And even worse, as someone who likes to go and see reptiles and invertebrates and things, the desert and tropical house was also closed because it got damaged in the storm.
Oh, well, last time I went was probably right at the end of, right on the cusp of where you're in autumn, but you're starting to lose the final pretenses of summer.
Yeah.
And the tropical house was open, but there was nothing in the desert house. There was nothing in there. So.
Yeah, I think they have done that up now, but you just couldn't go in there, which is just like great. So I'm just looking at mammals. So it's fine. Yeah, no. They've got marabou stork, and they've got kiwi as well. Which everyone walked past the kiwi because it's just a screen with the kiwi on it because they haven't got a dedicated nocturnal house for it. So it's just a screen that you can see of this thing. But we saw the red pandas; they were out, which is nice.
Yeah.
A variety of different things. Hamadryas baboons, they're always good to see.
Are they?
Well, I don't know. I always find them quite interesting.
I just have a bias against anything primate.
they're an odd species of baboon, and it's very much that classic zoo enclosure of theirs, where it's the rock work thing. So
if I remember right, that is actually a listed
I think it
is
is
a listed building, and they were trying to work out what they could, because did that used to be?
I think
it used to be like a it wasn't a bear pit or something, was it? I can't remember. It used to be for something. They found that it was pretty much useless, and it was a listed building. And then they kind of were looking at animals that could thrive on that.
Yeah.
And Hamadryas baboon ticked, I think, all the boxes. That's the story I got told. Whether or not that is 100% accurate or not, I do believe it. But whether or not it's 100% accurate, I'm not entirely sure. I said my little snipe at primates there, but not there in general. I mean, but I do like the great apes. So when I go Peyton Zoo, I do spend time with the great apes. I do like Diana monkeys, so I go around to see them too.
Yeah, they're all right. They're not my favorites.
I just worked with two that had a bit of attitude, and I liked them. So,
but did manage to see the gorillas and the orangs. The gibbons were quite active, and so were the howler monkeys. So
yeah, gibbons.
That was nice.
So,
yeah. Well, should we move into the news for this week?
Yeah.
Right.
Let's do it.
It's the news.
Right. Well, we're into this week's news. I'm going to start things off with some sad news.
Oh dear.
No, I mean, well, it's sad because it's also perplexing because I didn't know that this was a thing. Perry, the miniature donkey who served as the model for Donkey from Shrek, has unfortunately died at the age of 30 just the other day.
I can't feel my legs, Shrek.
Definitely can't
Sorry,
anymore.
that was.
But no, I was unaware that they'd used a particular donkey as the model, but for Donkey in Shrek. But yeah, sad to say that Donkey's no more. No bad Shrek impressions here.
You know Shrek takes fairy tales and it twists them a little bit.
Yeah,
I always thought Donkey was that kid that leads Pinocchio astray and
Okay,
gets turned into a donkey.
yeah, I suppose, but yeah,
That's the what I don't know why. I must have read it somewhere. There's no way I came up with that by myself. But
that's a disturbing and twisted film if I ever saw one.
what, Pinocchio?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Really messed up.
But it is, yeah.
As bad as Dumbo.
Dumbo is messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Anyway, my first article comes to us from Live Science, and it's an exciting one, I think.
Cool.
Orange dwarf cave crocodiles. The crocs that crawled into a cave, ate bats, and started mutating into a new species of bat croc.
That sounds like some sort of comic book thing.
Yeah, so this basically there's a small population of dwarf crocodiles that have been found in a cave in Gabon.
Yeah.
And the skin is turning orange from essentially swimming in guano 24/7. So basically, they're swimming in poo. And yeah, no one knows how long they've been down there, but genetic research has shown that they are distinct from anything else.
They didn't think we could go outside, you know. Nah, we'll stay here in the poo.
Well, the poo keeps the water warm. It's kind of a similar idea to we in a wetsuit.
Well, you've got bat croc. Well, I've got venom next. So from New Scientist, this is the discovery of a new species of scorpion that spits venom to defend itself.
Oh yeah, okay.
This is a new species that's been discovered in South America. Can spray venom out of its stinger and hit targets up to 35 centimeters away, which is an incredibly impressive feat for a tiny little scorpion. And you'll love the name that they've called it, Titus Achilles.
That is cool. I was hoping that they would use the name Gargan in there somewhere.
Gargan?
Yeah, Matt Gargan is nerd time, guys. Matt Gargan is the villain who becomes he gets like the scorpion suit gets welded to his flesh in Spider-Man, and his stinger spits venom. So missed opportunity there to have Matt Gargan immortalized in that way.
Yeah,
but very cool nonetheless. So my next article comes to us from Forbes, and it's a bit of a sad one as well. Fresher shark death sparks conservation outcry, not
controversial outcry.
So unfortunately, the body of a male 4.25 meter, so it's 13.9 feet for our friends across the pond. Fresher shark washed up on Par Sands Beach in Cornwall on New Year's Day. It's actually the second of this species to be washed up on our coasts here. The other one was in our home county of Devon.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was Clovelly or Heartland where it
was. Heartland sounds more familiar, I think.
Yeah, for some reason Clovelly's standing out to me. So it could be either one.
Yeah.
But the thing is, something is going on. And we haven't covered fresher sharks, have we?
No, that'd be
That's
cool
one
one
we
to
need to do, especially with that whiptail. I know I've mentioned the whiptail in the pistol shrimp episode. I'm sure of it because it does a similar thing.
We've got Shark Week this year we can certainly look at.
Yeah.
My next one, also an interesting one from the Smithsonian. Ground squirrels in California are displaying widespread carnivorous behavior for the first time. There is a stunning bit of some images of essentially one of these ground squirrels carrying away another small rodent.
No.
This isn't apparently the first time it's been happening. And there are certainly various accounts. Have you ever heard of the vampire squirrels of Borneo?
Yes, I have actually. Yeah.
They're supposedly ones that attack. Well, although it was proved false of the supposedly attacking mouse deer and drinking their blood. However, they are known for catching and killing other small creatures, not drinking their blood, which would just be a bit silly.
And my final article comes to us from Sci News online, and I thought I'd end with something that was good news and exciting to make up for the fresher shark thing, and that is the news that 166 million-year-old footprints of carnivorous and herbivorous dinosaurs have been discovered in the UK. So paleontologists have uncovered hundreds of different dinosaur footprints, including footprints left by a 9 meter long or 29.5 foot ferocious predator Megalosaurus, who we covered in our episode 200 celebration.
Yes.
Very, very cool dinosaur. Also, if I remember right, not like there's not a lot of trace fossils in the UK, is there?
Not as far as I'm aware,
So
no.
this is really special. And this was found at Dewar's Farm Quarry in Oxfordshire, in
their
the UK.
old stomping ground.
I was going to say, which is where they were first found as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So exciting stuff.
Ooh.
But that wraps it up for our newsreel. Gareth's got the main topic this week, and that is...
So I've sort of rolled two things together. It's a bit of, should we say, criticism over the current government. Now, I think those of you who've followed us for a while will know that we're not fans of the Tory government. Although, to be honest, I'm never a fan of any government that has inaction to do with nature and allowing things to basically slip. So currently, at the moment, the UK government is a Labour government, and they've gone through their first, I don't think they're quite at their first 100 days of being in charge yet. I think
they're not.
No, they've gone past that.
I don't know.
Either way, as with a lot of things, there was a lot of promise when they started laying out their sort of promises to the electorate a while back. And there was several things that really, excited me that, were going to change. However, as with all things government, they always slow down. Even on the best of ideas, governments are pretty slow to act. And just some interesting things have started to sort of really emerge of late. The first bit I've taken is actually a screenshot from Greenpeace, actually, on two different Guardian articles about the sort of current state of things with the government, and it's two headlines essentially back to back, so you can see the differences, how it started, how it's going. How it started: Labour to end UK exemption for bee-killing pesticides outlawed by the EU, neonicotinoids. How it's going: UK may approve bee-killing pesticides despite election promise to ban it. And that seems to be, at the moment, the way things are going. There seems to be exemptions for certain agricultural areas. I think sugar beet is one of the weird ones that gets an exemption on neonicotinoids, but what's the point, really, if you're not going to do it for all of them?
It still affects the wider insect community.
Yeah.
And then the rest of us after that.
Exactly. And that kind of leads me into the other bit, which comes from the BBC. Essentially, whilst going through this, we've also made no bones that we are very much against fox hunting and trail hunting, which is basically a smokescreen used to cover up fox hunting.
Not just fox hunting.
There's a variety of other...
Me and well, I won't say who, but we've been talking about it a lot when we've seen each other recently. It's a cover for hare hunting,
coursing, yeah. It goes on to this day, and there was like I say, there's been various reports that within the last year, so 2024, there were over 200 cases of foxes being killed accidentally in these trail hunting events, which essentially just are a way of covering it up and going, well, we didn't know that the fox was there. It accidentally got in the way. But the government basically promised to ban trail hunting and have been quite slow to act on it. So currently, trail hunting is still legal in the UK, but the government is committed to trail hunting and to basically ban it in full, which I think is the only way of completely shutting that door. There will still be people who'll do this illegally, guaranteed, but it will make it a heck of a lot harder to be able to carry these things out. So trail hunting essentially is a practice where you're supposed to have a scent laid down and have the hounds follow that scent across the ground. Now, there is no way of stopping that scent from being mixed up with the scent of a real fox, or basically coming across a fox and then going after it. So it leads to an awful lot of issues. It was basically introduced as part of the total ban on fox hunting by Labour in 2004, the previous Labour government. So they did do a lot to basically shut down fox hunting in 2004. But basically it's not gone far enough. The way that things have gone at the moment, Labour have still got it in their manifesto to ban trail hunting. However, they haven't pulled the pin. They haven't done it, basically, which is really not. It's really not great, because it's still leaving that loophole open. Now, at the moment, there is a lot of people kicking off to basically to sort of dig in a little bit at the same time into the government because of the way that they've dealt with farmers of late.
Right,
a lot of farmers kicking off that their inheritance tax is going to ruin them, and all these other different things, saying, well, they'll never get my vote again. This is the perfect opportunity for Labour to go, okay, well, if you're never voting for us again, let's do this at the same time, because if you're never going to vote for us again, we may as well just get this. May as well just ban it and sort that out completely.
Do what we can while we can, and if people are upset, we're not getting
So be
voted
it.
back in anyway.
Yeah. I think would be the best way to sort of carry that out. The criticism that the BBC article I find is quite interesting. It starts to veer very much off on a completely different slant from talking about trail hunting and how it's a bad thing. The Countryside Alliance, which represents hunters, has criticised this decision of banning trail hunting in the future and said it would be extraordinary for Labour to focus on the ban given the poor state of its relationship with rural communities at the moment. Hunting with hounds has been a tradition in these parts of the UK for centuries, but in 2004, these restrictions were placed on the practice. The Countryside Alliance said that trail hunting is legal activity that brings rural communities together.
I don't think it does. Actually,
as someone who lives in a rural community, does it bring you together?
No, in fact,
the slaughtering of a small animal.
It does not. It makes me feel very much like I want to alienate myself from these people.
I love the fact that it's always this argument that it's a tradition. It's something we've always done.
Do you know what else is a tradition?
Well, I don't believe I've ever done it. I don't believe you've ever done it.
No.
I don't believe anyone who I know has ever done it. So how is that a national tradition any more than saying that every single person in the UK all likes to wear purple shoes? I'm sure there are some people who do it, but it doesn't mean that all of us do.
I wonder what these people would say if they were told that, you know what, we're going to adopt the Spanish tradition of bullfighting.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, bullfighting, I think, is only practiced in one region of Spain now, because the rest of Spain wised up and were like, this is really wrong.
Yeah.
We should stop doing this.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, traditions can be changed. Traditions can be altered. If it was still the case that we did things traditionally, we would still be cavorting around as druids. You know, it's only the fact that Christianity rolled in and people started celebrating Christmas as a Christian holiday as opposed to a pagan one. And then even then that changes drastically because of the Americanization of things. So Santa goes from being Father Christmas to Santa, who goes from being green to red. Traditions evolve and change over time as humanity changes and evolves over time.
I hope these people that are so defensive of fox hunting because it's a tradition don't tell their kids that there's anything about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Oh no,
because he is not a tradition.
Although something tells me they might enjoy hunting Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Pretty sure they would.
Now, I find it...
Run, Rudolph, run!
Before you get torn to pieces by a pack of hounds. That's how the story actually ends. Santa didn't get there in time, kids. To really put some figures into this and really sort of point out that it is not something that needs to exist. Since the beginning of August last year, there were 186 reports of foxes pursued by hunts and 220 related to suspected illegal hunting incidents, according to the League Against Cruel Sports. Now, that's the ones that they've been able to document. I guarantee you there'd be more of them that has probably happened in that time. So you end up with groups trying to politicize things and make it that the government shouldn't be doing any more to rural communities because we want to be able to slaughter our small animals in this area. It's part of our tradition. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all, and I think it's an outdated practice, along with a variety of other things that we used to do. We used to roll women down hills in barrels with spikes on the inside to see if they were witches.
That's true.
That was a tradition that was done in parts of the country. We used to traditionally hang pirates from cages on the Thames to basically deter anyone from committing any crimes. I've probably got a bunch of people going, you know what? These are sensible policies.
Yes, sensible.
We've become too woke. That's the problem. We should bring back pirate hangings.
Well, you know, that's why they want to keep hold of that tradition, because foxes are woke.
Why are they woke?
Well, they're just fluffy, aren't they?
Ah,
they're woke.
Yeah, those woke foxes. Anyway, it's a pointless thing, and the sooner that Labour or any government, I don't care what government does it, because if they do something like that, they are doing it for the right reasons.
Just to jump off on something, just two things quickly. Firstly, whenever someone says woke in an argument, that word has lost its meaning to such a degree that if you use woke in an argument, you've instantly lost it on account of identifying yourself as an idiot. And secondly,
I'd like to point out I'm doing it ironically.
Yeah. But presumably you know what woke actually is, as opposed to what the Tory kind of constabulary.
I don't think anyone really knows. It's what it was
wishy-washy to begin with.
Yeah, it's gelatinous. It fits whatever you want it to fit. It's gelatinous. You can push it into any shape, into any hole that you want to put it in, because it fits how you want to be outraged.
It still makes me laugh that people kicked off with the
woke
BBC,
Tyrannosaurus.
the woke Tyrannosaurus.
There you
Not
go.
BBC, was it? Apple, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because of a woke Tyrannosaurus, because the male just happened to be feeding the
damn straight.
the kids a carcass.
I want my T-Rexes butchering their own children. That's why they went extinct.
Jesus. Anyway, the second point I wanted to jump off on quickly is this is just again proof that, like, yes, we've said it in the past, Labour are the lesser demon compared to Tories, but when you're comparing them to the Tories, not much isn't maybe no.
Well, actually,
I take that back.
There are some other worse options.
There are much worse options. But what I'm trying to say is, Labour, they went to the same school. They had the same upbringing. They had this country won't change until we get rid of this two-party system.
Well, but proportional representation.
The scary thing about this is it basically speaks to a prediction I made, in that I'm sure I wasn't the only one, and I'm sure it wasn't original, but the Tories got ousted because they pissed everyone off. Labour coming in is the breath of fresh air before the storm comes, because Labour were never going to please the further right wing.
No,
because I think Labour actually right wing more than left wing, but
they're supposedly centrist.
They're supposed to be, yeah. But they were never going to please the further right wing, and all that was going to do is upset everyone, and in their madness drive them towards the people like Farage. People are going to forget all that's happened under the last 14 years, because people have recency bias. You see that in politics, you see that in movie fandoms, you see that in everything. They have recency bias. All the heat that Labour is causing itself right now is only gonna, and they're not gonna go back to the Tories. They're gonna be, people will be pushed to something much worse. And it's another reason why I just see this country going to the dogs.
Look how long it took the Liberal Democrats to recover from their disastrous being in bed with the Tory parties.
Yeah,
it took them a very long time to get to the point where they are now. In some ways, in good places, they are in our local area, in like local elections. They're just dominating.
Yeah, they're doing
but they'll still, because it being almost a two-party system, like in America as well, they'll never break through to be that dominant party. They always have to be on the edge.
Yeah,
and it's
we have
sad.
the pretense of having an option, but we don't really, because Labour and Tory, there's not a lot of difference between them. And if you kid yourself that one is like light years better than the other, then you are actually just kidding yourself.
Sad to say. I mean, we've gone very political on that one. I think that's probably the most political we've gone for a while, actually.
So. I've had to bite my tongue quite a bit for that. There's one point whilst you're talking, I just thought, I put my head down. Don't say anything.
What? No.
Don't get the podcast in trouble. Don't get yourself in trouble.
Sorry, what? Either the hunting lobby coming after us, Keir
No,
Starmer coming after us.
Like I said, I'll make it if I could, I would make it the motto of the podcast. The NFU should STFU. But it just like, sometimes you like it could be very easy to allow political commentary to go into a tangent and then go into tirade and then accidentally alienate people who actually agree with us, but don't want to,
but just from a different point of view.
They don't want to listen to a 30-minute tirade about politics because everybody knows it sucks.
Well, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Then you are lost.
Anyway, should we very quickly move into our creature feature?
Oh, very good. Yeah. Okay, we should speed along.
It's the creature feature.
Right, well, we're into this week's creature feature. Aaron, what are we looking at for your first creature feature of 2025?
I forgot that is my first creature feature of 2025, actually, but we're looking at a very special animal this week. As you've heard us say plentiful times before, there are only 5 big cats: the tigers, the lions, the jaguars, the leopards, and the snow leopards. But there are also 2 cat species that are both quite unique among their cousins, big and small. And they kind of exist on the periphery of the big 5.
On the cusp.
On the cusp, yeah. And they are, of course, the cougars, which Gareth has so brilliantly covered for us, and the cheetahs, which today I hope to live up to Gareth's standard with the cougars. So the cheetah is an incredibly lightly built cat, and I'm going to kind of race through the appearance of them because I think everybody pretty much knows what a cheetah looks like, but it's still important to go over because of the number of times as a zookeeper I got asked where the cheetah, leopard, or jaguar was when it was a different species. Those 3 seem to be constantly mixed.
This is a margay. It's neither of those.
So this, as I say, lightly built cat usually stretches to a measurement of about 1.1 to 1.5 meters, or 3 foot 7 inches, 4 foot 11 inches in head to body length, and reaches a height of about 67 to 94 centimeters at the shoulder. So that is 26 to 37 inches for our American friends. And they generally get to a weight of up to, but not going anywhere beyond, 72 kilograms or 159 pounds. And it is a beautifully adorned animal, with the underside, including the chin, throat, and the insides of the limbs, being white to cream colored, whilst the top is a tawny yellowish brown that gets darker as you look kind of higher up the flank towards the midline of the spine there. Now, this sleek figure is then broken up by the presence of up to 2,000 evenly spaced 3 to 5 centimeter black spots.
2,000?
2,000. But it's a myth that every cheetah has the exact same arrangement. I don't know if you've ever heard that myth.
I'd have thought it would have been the opposite.
Yeah, no. A lot of people claim that the genetic bottleneck that cheetahs went through has forced them to all have the exact same number of spots in the exact same arrangement, and that's
not how coats work.
No, it's not how genetics works either. But yeah, there is up to 2,000. They're about 3 to 5 centimeters in kind of diameter, and they're accompanied actually by numerous other, albeit fainter, black markings spread across the body. And these spots, much like tiger stripes, are, as I say, they're uniquely arranged on each individual cheetah, aiding in individual identification. It's kind of like a fingerprint. As I say, much like the tiger stripes.
Yeah.
Now, this stunningly athletic body is supported by 4 elongated limbs, each sporting long, slender bones, especially those of the pelvic and leg structures. So we're talking about the femur, humerus, ischium, radius, and tibia in particular are elongated, adapted to being longer. And most of the muscle mass that these legs carry is actually held up high, basically as close to the body as possible. So we're talking about in the spine, where the spine meets the shoulders and the thighs, as opposed to the I suppose, what would be the equivalent of their forearms and their shins. Now, this bone and muscle arrangement is partially what grants the cheetah its incredible speed. And these legs terminate, or these limbs, sorry, terminate in a way which is highly specialized as well. The toughened paw pads that are found on the feet are, as I say, they're extra durable, and they also come with blunt, semi-retractable claws, and this makes for a foot loadout that is both extra, as I say, durable on rough terrain, and all completely useful for sprinting on such rough substrate, and it affords a near running spike level grip on that loose terrain, on the dust as they change direction on their native range.
Yeah, I was sort of pictured it in the same thing as like football boots or running shoes that have got grip to them to spike into the ground to help you move.
Exactly like studs, and as I say, the pads very tough.
Yeah.
So yeah, well adapted to that environment and that activity of running as fast as they do. Now, at the business end of the cheetah, we find a relatively small, rounded head compared to other cats. But judge this head by its size, you should not. It is amply kitted out to give the cheetah its best chances for success. For example, the slim face lines, small rounded ears, and shorter whiskers all aid in aerodynamics, countering the air resistance that they would meet running at full tilt if they were built more like a tiger, in the head region, that is. And the eyes are located quite high on the skull, and the canines in the canine teeth in the mouth are much smaller, or relatively smaller compared to comparative to their size when you look at them and other cats. And this allows for larger nasal cavities in order to prioritize air intake. The striking black tear streaks that come down on the inner part of their cheek on either side of the snout currently have kind of disputed usage, but there are three kind of recurring theories that suggest that they either act as sunglasses by absorbing the sun's light.
That's what I'd always gone with, like the meerkat sort of
exactly
thing.
Like the meerkat, yeah. So they can basically run towards a horizon where the sun is in their face and still keep track of that Thompson's gazelle.
Yeah.
Or it acts as crosshairs. There's a theory that the black fur at the top and the bottom of the eye, the cheetahs can actually see that, and that it creates a not like a crosshair like in a gun, but they keep the Thompson's gazelle within these two lines. And another one, which I think is a strong contender, is that it acts as a communication marker through facial expressions. The truth is, it could be a mix of all three.
I don't really buy the middle one, to be honest.
Oh, I don't know. I can see a point for it, but at the same time, if it's that close to your face, can they perceive it?
It doesn't run down the center of where their eye is. It runs down the side.
No, it's here.
Yeah,
it's here. So yeah. So at the opposite end of the body, a thick, muscular tail measuring up to 80 centimeters or 31 inches can be found. The first 2/3 of this tail continues that spotted patterning of the body, but the final third introduces up to 6 stripe-like bands and ends in a white tuft, which is another communication marker. The uses of the tail are two-pronged. As I say, its secondary function is a communication marker, mainly for cubs, but also for brothers and, of course, mates and rivals. But first and foremost, it's used as a rudder, helping the cheetahs to change direction on a penny with very little energy wastage. Now, we're going to look a little bit deeper into the anatomy of a cheetah, because inside the body, there's a whole lot more going on than what you would think of looking at this animal. Straight away, we'll go back to the head end. The higher location of the eyes and the smaller size of the canines allows for those larger nasal passages that I've already mentioned, and that is all to do with basically bring more air in, more air being supplied per breath, and the ability to take that breath faster too. In fact, cheetahs take 150 breaths per minute during the chase. if they're resting just after a race, a chase, it can be anywhere between 60 to 150 breaths a minute. So they are panting. The next stop is the spine. So you start at the neck and it runs through the body and down the tail. The spine is the longest of all the cat species. It is also immensely muscled and insanely flexible. But more than that, the joints between the vertebrae, they're actually open joints. So it's quite a loose assemblage going on. And this boosts that flexibility that I've already mentioned. What this does is it allows the spine to bend to such an extent that the back limbs can come forward and overtake the forelimbs, and it compresses the body like a squeezed spring.
Do you know the best way I've heard it expressed?
Go for it.
Is a bow.
Yeah.
So flexing like a bow, and then the pressure on the bowstring pulls the either end down,
the outside,
and then it flings itself back up.
Yeah,
like
actually, that's better than the spring metaphor, because basically, as those front legs are pushed, the body is released explosively, very much like a bow being released from that tension. And this gives the cheetah a 7-meter stride, which is absolutely humongous. At full tilt, cheetahs may as well be considered flying because they don't put their feet down for so long.
Just like hippos.
Just like hippos. Now, if we'd instead have followed the nasal passages instead of the spine, we'd find an enlarged respiratory equipment throughout the system, even ending in the proportionately large chest, which houses an enlarged pair of lungs to promote as much gaseous exchange as possible, as efficiently and quickly as possible. And this is supported by an enlarged heart, which pumps that oxygenated blood, or oxyhemoglobin, and all the nutrients that contains to every part of the body, feeding that body with oxygen and food at a rate of up to 250 beats per minute, which is incredible. For you or I, that would be death.
I was going to say, your probably heart would explode.
That's more than a cardiac arrest. Just in case anyone's interested, resting immediately after a chase, their heartbeats at about 126 to 173 beats per minute. And this is all without a irregular heartbeat occurring. So this is completely regular. And the blood itself, well, even that is specialized for the cheetah's lifestyle, being comparatively thinner than in other cats to allow for that fast and effective movement through the body and keeping those muscles nicely catered to. Now, all of these external features and internal arrangements are not just adaptations for running at breakneck speeds. They are equally just as valuable to the cheetah recovering after the hunt has ended. And this is a process that dictates that, unlike their gorge-feeding cousins who immediately tuck into the spoils of their hunt, cheetahs must rest before they feast, which actually brings them into conflict with a lot of other predators who are... I was
going to say it's their biggest downfall.
It is their biggest downfall. Hyenas, leopards, lions, they'll all try and take cheetahs.
Slightly angry pangolin.
Yeah. Yeah.
They never strike me as the most aggressive and, sort of domineering cat.
No, cheetahs absolutely will avoid as much as possible. They'll avoid confrontation. They'll avoid defending their kill, because it's better to go hungry and try and hunt again than it is to risk injury and not be able to hunt ever again.
Yeah.
Before we move on, just a quick word on social structures, because cheetahs are quite interesting in that regard. So cheetahs are something of a midway point between lions and potentially tigers and the rest of the cat family. They are not quite as sociable as the lions, but they are definitely far more sociable than all of their other cousins. Females are generally solitary, but they're amicable. They avoid others, but fighting is extremely rare, and they will tolerate others moving through what you could loosely define as a home range as opposed to a territory, unless they pose a threat, of course, to their cubs. Even then, there's not much a cheetah can do against a predator looking to kill her cubs, because again, they risk injury to themselves, and cheetahs are not powerful animals in that regard.
Yeah.
Males, on the other hand, are a little bit more flexible. So they'll exist in a coalition, which will be formed of 2 to 3 brothers, sometimes they'll even adopt a lone male of a similar age from time to time. And this is all basically to promote easier hunting, self-preservation, and of course access to females. This all becomes easier by having backup, as you would know from learning anything about lions as well. Now, when it comes to breeding, cheetahs can breed year-round with females having their first litter around the age of 2 or 3 years old. So they're not dependent on a particular season. When a female in a given male's territory comes into season, the male will start to mark the area with urine more frequently. And this is a behavior that is often seen on the streets of Barnstable by the less elegant patrons of the local dive that passes for a nightclub here. Males will fight for mating rights, but the fights are often not too serious. As
Are we back in cheetahs?
We're back in cheetahs now. Neither combatant wants to risk injury to their relatively delicate bodies. The male will approach the female first, and they will exchange a range of vocal cues before they get down to business. Have you ever heard cheetahs?
Yeah, it's basically a slightly...
It's like a high-pitched bark.
I think your cat's got a louder call than a cheetah.
And the cubs actually whistle.
Yeah.
I don't know if the microphone can pick it up, but it sounds a bit like this. That's what a cheetah cub sounds like. Hopefully that's come out. So after they've done the deed, they'll mostly ignore each other apart from hooking up a few times more, which again is another behavior clumsily replicated by local drunkards. The female is pregnant for 3 months and eventually gives birth to a litter of up to 8 cubs. They're all born blind and in the cover of thick vegetation. They don't tend to den down, these animals. Now, the cubs have their own defense to kind of counter the fact that they don't have a den. They'll be born developing this blue-grey appearance as they grow with a thick cape of fur. Now, eventually, that will actually disappear on females, but on the males, it will reduce to basically a small assemblage of thicker fur on the back of the neck that's almost like a nod to the mane of their lion cousins. But initially, it's almost like a mohawk like appearance on top of the cubs at this early stage of life. And it's said to mimic the ratel, or the honey badger, you might know it as, to protect the cubs from predation. And it seems to work to an extent. However, as we'll probably get to in a minute, cheetah mortality, the cubs, is extremely high.
Honey badgers walk up to them and go and do the whole Pepe Le Pew thing, thinking, I've found a honey badger.
The female cheetah is extremely vigilant as a mother, moving the cubs once a week and never straying more than 1 kilometer away from them when on the hunt. Now, despite this vigilance, infant mortality, here it comes, is still extremely high, with about a 70% death rate present in areas where there are actually low predator numbers. So in areas where there are higher predator numbers, that would be much worse. So how this species survives...
they're a bit like pandas in my mind, in that sort of...
They are a little bit, yeah.
How are they still here?
Now, cubs that do make it often start trying to hunt at 6 months of age. They're usually successful by 15 months at the latest and are fully independent by 20 months of age. So they're pretty efficient at learning how to hunt, it would seem. They start on hares, funnily enough, small animals. Now, on to African cheetahs a little bit. There are 3 subspecies of African cheetah. The Southeast African cheetah is a subspecies that boasts 6,000 individuals spread very thinly across Angola, Botswana, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, and Zambia. Now, though this number is actually questionable, I actually found quotes as low as 4,000 and as high as 10,000. So
it's quite a bit of a disparity.
It's a huge disparity. And you'll get the picture as I go through these subspecies that they're not really well documented at all anywhere in the world, which is not part of the problem. It was the first species described, so as such, the Southeast African cheetah is the nominate subspecies, and it genetically split with the Asiatic cheetah some 67,000 to 32,000 years ago. But interestingly, this is the subspecies that is currently in use to repopulate Asia. And that's happening in India. And unfortunately, it's not been all that simple. In fact, the government over there basically banned the project from going ahead. And then when they did allow the project to go ahead, they allowed it to be done on an experimental basis. So that it was, I believe, in the end, there was maybe 20 individuals released. The population went up to like 27. And then from there, I think almost all have died. I think there's only 12 left, and those 12 are now in basically enclosures. So it's
why did they ban it?
They didn't want it. They for numerous reasons they didn't want it. They didn't want to promote it. It was supposed to be the linchpin in this whole new Rewilding India kind of initiative. And I've got to say, actually, I don't think the conservationists had the best plan in the world. I can't remember the name of the national park where they were released, but basically, there were too many cheetahs being released into this national park. Bearing in mind the size of a home range of a cheetah of this subspecies, the Southeast African cheetah, in Africa was, I think it's 100 kilometers, and the size of the national park in India was so small that if each of these cheetah individuals held that much territory, they'll be forcing each other out of the protected zones. No one seemed to not the government, not the conservation organization.
This seems to be very poorly planned. Then I'm guessing
it seems like it was. It seems like the government had a bug up its ass about allowing it to happen anyway, but the conservation organizations didn't really have a good plan to begin with. It seems like the fault is on both ends. But they're now trying to work out if other national parks, like now that it's all the problem's already reared its head, they're trying to work out if other national parks would be keen to have them. But I think the government is keener. This is a problem with charismatic animals. The government is more keen on spreading the Asiatic lion out of the Gir National Park, which is sensible. But I never thought that it's a case of either or.
No, it shouldn't be.
In Asia, you've got lions, tigers, and leopards. There's no reason it should be an either or on this, and especially as cheetahs take up a different kind of biome in India.
They're less dangerous for a start.
Yeah, so unfortunately that hasn't gone well, but it is the Southeast African cheetah that's being used for that. And this is a subspecies that is considered vulnerable, unfortunately, with threats mainly coming from the usual suspects of poaching, habitat destruction, and prey loss. The Northeast African cheetah. Now, this is a subspecies that has essentially an unknown population total. Is a recurring kind of theme with cheetahs. Though it was known that roughly 533 lived in protected sites across Central African Republic, Chad, Ethiopia, and South Sudan. It diverged from the Southeast African cheetah about 72,000 to 16,000 years ago, and it's a subspecies, interestingly, that is being used to boost population numbers in Iran, which is the Asiatic cheetah that's over there. Iran is the last place where the Asiatic cheetah exists,
which is odd in so many ways. The amount of fighting and sort of overall sort of upset that country's had. The fact that they're hanging on there is a pretty good sort of sign in some ways.
It is, and hanging on would be the
definitely the word, I'm
operative
guessing.
word. Yeah, but I think we'll get to Asiatics in a minute. Now, this subspecies is considered endangered, with the main threats again being poaching, habitat destruction, which, by the way, in this case is 700% habitat loss from 1972 to 2007. So 700%. That's an insane amount of habitat gone. Also prey loss, and interestingly, illegal pet trade.
Yeah,
with this subspecies in particular. Now, this is the last of the African cheetahs. the Northwest African cheetah. Now, this is a population that is suspected to number lower than 250 individuals in the wild, and that's mature adults. And these 250, if being positive, they're spread across Algeria, Benin, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. It is considered critically endangered, obviously, and there isn't at all that much information out there about them. But again, poaching, habitat loss, and the illegal pet trade seem to be the main drivers of their predicament. Now, if we head on over into the Asian cheetah territories, the Asiatic cheetah territories, there is only one surviving subspecies of the cheetah that is native to Asia, and that is the one that we call the Asiatic cheetah. And they number as few as 12.
I mean, that's not really a number in some ways when it comes to animals. That's kind of game over, really.
That's 12 individuals, and that count took place in 2022.
Ooh.
And also, those 12 individuals are completely restricted to Iran, which, as you've already alluded to, is not the most stable environment.
Yeah.
For people or wildlife. And in fact, the Asiatic cheetah in Iran for a long time never had a reliable population count done on it because of the humanitarian issues ongoing in the country. So yeah, now the wider picture of the cheetah population in Iran is currently, as I say, being boosted by the presence of the Northeast African Cheetah Translocation Project. And the picture in India for this, for the Asiatic cheetahs, is again a matter of translocation with, as I say, the Southeast African cheetahs being used to repopulate the region. But the world of the Asiatic cheetah is one that I feel is actually worth talking about a little, potentially a little bit more than the African cheetahs. And I say this because this is an animal that at some point we completely revered, and I'm not talking about just the people in India living with us. We Europeans were extremely fond of the Asiatic cheetah.
I sense the Romans coming into this.
No, this actually comes way after the Romans as well. The Romans are involved, but this practice survived well beyond that, because the Romans, well, we'll get into it. Basically, Afghanistan, India, and Persia all have reasonable arguments to claim the origin point of humans training cheetahs to hunt for them.
It's with almost like a falconry thing.
Yes, exactly. And keep that in mind. So yes, there are potentially older portrayals of cheetahs being tamed by humans in Egypt and China, and it would have been the Romans too. But these were likely pets or menagerie inhabitants, or in some cases potentially Colosseum inhabitants, or I don't know.
That would have made for a very boring day at the Colosseum.
Probably, yeah. Not so much for the cheetah though.
Wow.
A very scary day.
Yeah.
Now, India and the Middle East actually used these animals. They weren't just pets; they were companions, and they were domesticated. Now, whilst I'm not in agreement with the practice, having seen the footage myself, I've got to say it is incredibly impressive. The cheetahs would be equipped with the very same leather hoods that are used on falconry birds, which is why I said keep that in your mind.
But could you imagine trying to get them on your glove?
Yes. They actually got them onto horses. That's not where the links to falconry end. The cheetahs, like the birds, were taken as adults, not as young, not as chicks or cubs. They're taken as adults, and they would be trained and used by exploiting their hunger. So basically, you'd keep your cheetah and your falcon hungry to get them to bring down your quarry for you. Now, as I say, these cheetahs would basically be trained to go on horseback. So they'd be on the rump of the horse whilst you're in the saddle, or they'd be on cattle-drawn carts with their owners, and they'll be taken out to the grasslands to hunt blackbuck, which is an Asian antelope.
Very cool one, actually.
Very, very cool one.
First antelope I ever worked with.
Really? I've never worked with blackbuck. Very pretty antelope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, also the only antelope I've ever worked with, just thinking about
it. Really?
Yeah, I've never worked with any other antelope.
I've worked with a few, I think. Yeah. Do you know what? I have worked with blackbuck at Knowsley.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Now, if successful, the cheetah will be rewarded. So a ladle of blood will be provided for a cheetah that is required to hunt again. But if that individual has just participated in its final hunt of the day, then a full meal from the kill is awarded to it. And in the footage you can see them lopping off the leg of a black buck to feed to the cheetah, and you can see another guy with a ladle collecting the blood as it pours out of the.
I think I'd
wound.
give them a bit more than just a ladle of blood.
But yes, but the whole thing makes for an incredible watch. It is really, really interesting. But ultimately, the constant taking of breeding age cheetahs from the wild led to a decline in wild population numbers because there was no adults to breed and the youngsters are still very vulnerable. And this was compounded by the habitat destruction that was brought about by the expansion of human settlement and the agriculture under the British colonization of the area, affecting populations of the cheetahs themselves and their prey alike. Added to this, the cheetahs were and continued to be, to this day, even in zoos, notoriously difficult to breed in captivity. So there's no captive bred stock from which you can replace your companion. You have to go out into the wild to get them. And I feel like the final nail in the coffin for the Asiatic cheetah was actually the kind of the progression of firearms. They were becoming far more prolific, far more efficient, and this was bad news for cheetah populations because in the wild, because they've been slaughtered in their droves. It was bad news for populations of their prey who were being slaughtered in their droves. There's no more challenge.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with guns, the need for captive cheetahs is basically eliminated.
Yeah.
So all of this culminated in the last Asiatic cheetah to be seen in India being killed in 1947 by a Korean. And this marked the end of the wild population and the end of the stock from which to take new hunting cheetah. But this is a practice that survived right up to World War II in some places.
Yeah.
It only fell out of favor in European courts in like the last 200-300 years. So this is all really recent history. When you learn about our history, like our kind of not like our Victorian history, but when you learn of just beyond that, they never mention hunting with cheetahs.
No,
but they would have been doing it. And it's just, it seems that despite that close kinship, that pretty much the entire like kind of claimed area of the Northern Hemisphere were all participating in this or had all seen this activity take place. Despite that, no one noticed that these cats were going, or rather, should I say, no one cared that these cats were going extinct. They were disappearing right in front of people. No one did anything about it. And it was both hunted and domesticated due to its predatory and regal nature. It was then discarded as a pest when a more efficient mechanical alternative in the form of guns became more widely available and reliable. And this is not the only occurrence of this broken relationship between humans, our pets, and their wild counterparts. Just look at our unbalanced fear and hatred of wolves for further evidence of this. They were the original dogs, and then all of a sudden you have a chihuahua in your handbag and you don't like wolves no more.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this is a lesson. There is a message in this story of perhaps how we need to keep a closer check on our behavior towards and our relationship with the wildlife around us. The Asiatic cheetah stands a really real sad real sad point in the history of humans and wildlife and how we treat it and how we domesticate it.
Yeah. As a final thing, could you sum up the king cheetah as well? Because I guarantee you someone's going to ask about king cheetahs.
I was going to include them, but this creature feature was going very long, so I was worried about about time and stuff. But yeah, essentially, the king cheetah is much like the white tiger, the white lion. It's a genetic freak. It's a mutation that doesn't have any importance for conservation. Now,
other than distracting.
Other than distracting from actual conservation, yeah. Now, the reason why it's so prolific and why zoos can breed it quite easily without obvious inbreeding is because cheetahs are so inbred anyway, because of that genetic bottleneck that happened somewhere near the last glacial period of the ice age that we're currently in. Now what you'll see is a cheetah with stripes, not vertical stripes like in the tiger. These stripes run along the body. It's basically where the spots are enlarged or blotched to such a degree they blur into each other. Yeah, they bleed into each other. It's actually very you look at it and you think, oh wow, that's striking, but it is just a genetic freak. It's just a mutant, and like we said at the end of every episode of our first series, no more mutants. Like, stop breeding these things. Another interesting thing about king cheetahs is, have you ever touched a cheetah?
I've never got that close.
So they're quite coarse.
I imagine that they are
The fur is quite
just
coarse.
how they feel. I mean, I've touched a snow leopard. They're quite fluffy.
Yeah, they are.
Obviously. And a leopard and a lion. Lions are quite coarse.
Yeah, tigers are quite fluffy under. Like there's like almost like two layers to them, or at least these Amur tigers. There's a thick, fluffy, soft coat, but then there's like these like thick, coarse hairs too. Well, king cheetahs actually have very silky hair, or at least the reports I've read all seem, the ones that mention it, they mention the fur being very silky to the touch.
That's weird.
Yeah, but that's the king cheetah. There's nothing special about it. It shouldn't be called king cheetah because it gives too much importance to it, like the royal white Bengal tiger. There's nothing special about them. They are mutants, and they are a distraction from actual conservation. And zoos should not be breeding them. There was a zoo, I can't remember which one it was, but when during my first few years of zookeeping, they were notorious for only breeding king cheetahs.
Oh, that's not good.
And I think I'm pretty sure that Planet Zoo, and I'm pretty sure that one of the Zoo Tycoon games both feature king cheetahs in, and it's something.
No, Planet Zoo doesn't have them. No? There are mods. People have made mods.
Right. Okay. Well, in which case it might be both the Zoo Tycoon games.
You can, however, because they introduced onto Planet Zoo different coat mutations, you can occasionally get more melanistic individuals, but they've done it to be realistic in that, these things can occur.
This is not a mutation in the same regard as melanistic jaguars and leopards, which happens more naturally because of the habitats that they're in. It's like a freak.
Yeah,
has been seen as the
well, one is more beneficial to being able to survive in their habitat.
Exactly.
The other is just it happened
because that freak was seen as the ultimate mate because its characteristics were good for that habitat. It was bred, and any cub has had more success breeding because it was melanistic. That's not the case with king cheetahs and white tigers and white lions. The last natural white lions were wiped out by the Romans. They were the Saharan ones, I believe. But I've taken that down a tangent, probably a longer tangent than you had wanted for that question.
No, I think that's good. It's headed that question off at the pass, because I guarantee we would have had someone asking about it.
I dedicate this creature feature to my daughter because cheetahs are her favorite animal. It might not be when she grows up, but hopefully, like I've done this for her. So,
well, that's pretty cool. Should we head into our emails?
Let's do it.
Bing! You've got mail. Ooh, it's an email.
Right, well, we're into this week's emails, and we're going to start things off with our question from last week, which was, what is your favourite drink made from plants? And I'm surprised we didn't have people going on us and saying, well, all these plant-based drinks and everything. It's
woke. You woke. I drink straight cow
beef
blood
juice. Yeah. Anyway,
Go woke, go broke.
the first comment comes from my wife, and she said, "Tea, just plain old English breakfast tea." Yep, she likes it with a lot of milk.
Oh, so it's basically milk with a hint of tea then.
Yes, but it still tastes.
I'm gonna start tea fights again.
Don't start tea fights.
Drew, our very own Drew, has followed that up with Nightshade berry juice. It's so good you'll never drink again.
He was clearly feeling in his sort of more angsty, dark mood at that point. Just a warning: don't drink Nightshade.
Nightshade.
Jen Babs has put, but there are so many. Trying to think of one other than water that is not made from plants in some way. I guess you could say some ciders. Have never seen an apple. Most commercial cordials probably have never seen fruit juice. I know this isn't the question. I guess I have to say coffee and cider, followed by wine. Is that what you were after? Yes, basically. I mean, all of those would be fine. Yeah, I mean, I know there are some ciders that have probably never seen an apple in their life.
Yeah. Well, Maria Malco says, I do love tea, whether it be green tea, chai tea, or herbal tea. Yeah, there's a huge variety of tea because tea is basically infusion.
Have you started looking
isn't it?
into more and more different things after the tea episode?
A little bit, yeah.
So Spencer seems dragon fruit tea.
No, I like dragon fruit.
I've never heard of dragon fruit tea. I always find dragon fruit just tastes like a flavorless kiwi.
Oh no, I like dragon fruit.
One of my favorite ones is discontinued. I still have a small amount of it. I don't want to make it though. Fair enough.
It's when something's discontinued. I remember the heartbreak of when Fox stopped doing Echo bars. I really liked Echo bars.
Fair enough.
They fueled me through college. Robin Clark says potato vodka. No, I jest. It has to be tea for me. I can't narrow it down to a specific type because I like so many of them. We have a tea aficionado.
And possibly a pochine aficionado as well.
Yeah.
I think potato vodka counts. It's plant-based. Joanna Shelton has put oak leaf wine.
Didn't even know you could do that.
No. Surprisingly, one of the best wines I have ever made. It was helped out with a yeast. So does that count? I mean, technically the yeast is doing the sort of transformation work of converting sugars into alcohol, but it's still plant-based. It's still come from oak leaves, presumably. I've got to admit, I kind of want to try that now. I imagine
it's an interesting concept. I
don't know what that would taste like.
It's a little bit oaky.
Well, there you go.
I don't think we have any more comments on the post, do we?
No,
but we do have a YouTube comment on
it. Okay,
which I've kept Gareth in the dark about.
Yep, I can't see it from our screen.
Hopefully, to amuse the person who commented this just as much as amuse you guys at home, because Gareth is in the doghouse.
Rosie Lee
9961 commented underneath.
Oh
the YouTube.
My god!
She said, "So I was originally going to answer the question of my favorite plant made drink by going with oat milk. Then Gareth fired the boring bullet, and I couldn't have the boring answer. So with my jaw on the floor of my work's break room, I remembered that my beloved lemonade existed. So no, my favorite plant-made drink isn't oat milk, more because I don't love it because real milk has that title. But I'm trying to make more vegan options in my life, but I digress. But it's lemonade instead. And I know it's not the most natural thing in the world, but A, I agree with Erin with the idea of pulp not needed in the drink. Too right. And B, I do love me some pink lemonade. But yeah, it just amused me greatly, and I decided I wasn't going to tell Gareth there was a comment about him on this.
I do like the fact that your name is Rosie Lee, which is sort of Cockney for tea.
Didn't know that.
You never? No,
I didn't know that.
Rosie Lee.
Tea? I don't understand Cockney rhyming slang.
That's about as much as I know. Apples and pears, stairs.
To me, that's more difficult than Chinese.
Well, there we go. So this week's question, based on the cheetah that we have with Erin, is what is your favorite cat species? And it can't be one of the big 5 cats. So it can't be.
We've done the 5 cats before. The 5 big cats before. It has to be a large cat. Well, the only large cat, the cheetah, or it can be any of the small cats.
Yeah. So you can have puma, you can have cheetah, you can have sand cat, rusty spotted cat, blackfoot cat, any of those sort of species. It can't be jaguars, leopards, lions, tigers, or snow leopards.
He-Man's battle cat doesn't count.
Doesn't
Technically,
count
that's
either.
an alien tiger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very few green tigers.
Yeah.
But well, which one's your favorite other than those big five?
I mean,
there's quite a, do you know what? There's almost too many to pick.
There is.
There's the small cats.
I certainly would say the Asiatic, well, cheetahs generally, but I do have a fondness for the Asiatic cheetah just because of stuff I've learned about their interaction with us over the years. Cougars have always been up there. I would say that I think that my favorite non-big cat is either a coin toss between clouded leopards or margais.
Very nice.
I think margais are incredibly cool, and as an added bonus, they kill primates.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Do you know what? I'm going to have the opportunity to add behind us when you're talking about margay. I've got a really good picture of a margay I took years ago.
Yeah.
And I get to also put up the picture as well of my favorite small cat. So pumas are definitely my favorite cat in general. But I almost tend to think of them as a big cat, like cheetahs. Most people tend to put them in the same sort of thing. But I'm going to go away from the puma. I'm going to say the black-footed cat.
They are cool. And I think I met your black-footed cats once.
They were just, I have this wonderful picture of the most angry cat on the planet. They are
the
pure rage
species as well.
They're called anthill tigers as well, because they all hide in termite nests or in anthills. And if you knock off the top of one and it's annoyed, they apparently fly out and are aggressive at you. And I would say that that's almost got to be 100% true, for the simple reason that the ones that I looked after, it would fly out of its box at you to latch onto the food that you would give it.
That one was hand-reared, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pure rage in the smallest, cutest cat form.
The person that was hand rearing that black-footed cat visited a zoo that I was working at, and I was watching him bottle feed this black-footed cat, and I was thinking, like, they grow to be pretty vicious.
It was
to find out that later in life it lived up to my premonition.
It's just, I mean, it didn't ever attack you or anything.
No,
but it was just anger, pure rage. I am going to kill you, human. You know, this tiny little thing that is no bigger than your normal domestic cat kitten, just basically spitting furiously at you, telling you to get out of its territory, even though you're in there just feeding it or cleaning it. You know, I am pure rage. I am the biggest, toughest creature in the world. Just so good. And the picture I've got of it is just it baring its teeth. And
I think they're amazing, the blackfoot cats. They're absolutely stunning animal. Really interesting cat, because it's so easy to just say a cat is a cat is a cat, but
no,
once you get to know the species individually, they are vastly different. And the black-footed African cat is a really nice one.
Yeah,
I'll tell you another one is caracal.
Yeah, they're really cool. I
adore caracal and lynx, but caracal, yeah, caracal pretty cool. I think I got a photo somewhere. If I can find it, I'll post it up with a caracal that is basically latched with claws and teeth into my my left calf.
There are so many really interesting small cats that, unfortunately, I think take a real back seat to the big cats, and there needs to be more about them. But yeah, let us know what your favorite species of small cat is that is not one of those big cats.
There's a few of those that need covering actually as creature features.
Yeah, definitely. Right, well, I think shall we have a look at our emails?
Yes, we shall. So the first one is not so much an email as it is a video which we put up behind us, but basically Jen Greenhall, one of our lovely Patreon supporters actually, and long-time listener, so thank you for that, Jen Greenhall. Happy New Year. has sent us this lovely video of a golden eagle scoping out the Yorkshire Dales.
Nice.
It's come down from
come over the border.
Southwest Scotland.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. We'll put that up behind us.
In fact, I think we were talking about that. The plan for them to come across the border.
We did, yeah.
So yeah.
Jen's usually a couple episodes behind, so she
may,
might actually be listening to that one this week.
Well, yeah, that's a really cool a really cool video there of a bird that we want to see more of. We definitely want to see more of. You can send us any videos in of any wildlife that you spotted. That's always interesting for us to basically to see, really.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of videos, if you type into Google people hunting with cheetahs.
Right, I wonder where this was going.
Sorry, this is going back to the cheetah creature feature we've just done. Type in people hunting with cheetahs. You'll see the footage that I've watched, and it's really cool, really cool. So our next email comes to us from Ren, who's another long-term listener now I would say, and their email is titled Ren Again, which I think is cool. They say, I've been listening to old episodes and was wondering, since the New Year's is coming up, as of this email, what is your favorite change you have done to the podcast? Personally, it is a draw between the new newsreel, which goes into great detail, and Gareth no longer says what's coming up. I love the suspense of never knowing what's coming, except the creature feature itself. It adds a lot of anticipation for the listeners, or me at least. Equally, I want to do some drawing, including your guys' favourite animals. However, Gareth's favourite animal is hard to pin down. I would not be surprised if it was a kakapo, a weta, or a tuatara, or some other animal. I can't quite. Oh, it says happy holidays, Ren. Happy holidays to you too,
yes,
Ren.
Happy holidays.
Very nice to hear from you.
I don't remember the fact that I used to apparently say coming up in the news, but apparently so I did. In which case, it's not something that I've particularly missed.
I tell you one change that I don't miss. Do you remember we changed when we first started doing the current format of the newsreel? We did. I used to do a spiel right at the start of it, and the listeners that know me, including and yourself, will know that I get my tongue tied quite easily. So yeah, that was a nightmare going through that. I'm glad that we got rid of that. We shortened that down, got rid of it. We kept the news, what was working of the newsreel, which is basically the format you have it in now. Was it 6 headlines and then 1 main topic?
Yeah.
I'm glad we kept that bit and got rid of the longer spiel
bit. Yeah.
That was good. But I wouldn't say that was my favorite change. What
was my favorite change is the fact that we're now visual.
I think that's my favorite. Yeah.
Hands down, it's the change that I think is the best thing that we've done. But the thing that I wish we could still have, and I think it would be a lot harder to do now with just the sheer space we have in here. I wish we still had Drew with us as well.
Yeah.
It would be very crammed. We'll have to get a bigger studio and then trap him in here again. But we got him in here for the highbrow Patillery, and he does want to come back for a few episodes this year. So yeah, we'll have him in for doing 1 or 2. But
my favorite change is, as you say, the visual format, doing it for YouTube now. However, that's also my least favorite change too, because the amount of editing that now goes
has gone up a bit more.
It's insane. I dread the edit every week now.
But we do get to have a lot more fun with doing it, and I do want to do more green screen stuff with us, so that we can be in with, say, pictures of dinosaurs whilst talking.
Yeah, I like the fact that we're in the same room now as well. Because that was something that was good about some of the earlier episodes when the audio was rubbish. But we were
you couldn't hear it, but we're in the same room. Yeah.
And then obviously COVID kind of kept changing and unchanging that, but no, it's good that we're in the same room again. But I was gonna say the only I guess, other than the extreme amount of edit work that goes on now because it's for YouTube and it's video format. Yeah, I wish we could convince Drew to come back full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As for favorite animals, though, yeah, I don't really have an individual favorite animal. I do like wetters, I do like kakapo, I do like Indian ringnecks because they all have different significance to me. I don't think I could pick one individual animal that is my favorite. I find it really hard. I don't have that one animal that defines me like you and tigers.
Yeah, tigers have always been my favorite. Others have kind of crept in and out. I think it's always been tigers, then polar bears.
I think if I had to really pick heavily, and it's a species I've not seen, no, I can't pick
It's a
one
species he
individual.
hasn't bred before.
Shut up! I was about to say I
He's
haven't
gonna-
covered. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. There's so many animals. I think I don't want to confine myself to just one species.
Might have been an easier question to ask him. What's his favorite species he hasn't bred?
I haven't bred elephants either.
Yeah, but we know
Ah,
that's not your favorite.
How do you? All right. I haven't bred tuatara.
Fair enough. Fair comment.
I will say, for the purposes of this, Indian ringnecks are my favorite bird, because that was what my pet parrot was. But it's it's hard to say, like say, an individual species. I don't see the point in nailing myself to one post. I'll tell you, my favorite dinosaur is baryonyx. There you go.
You have to if you do draw those animals, you have to send us like
Just
an
hybridize them into
email
one
an
thing.
image so that we can see how they turn out, because
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
But yeah,
Always interested to see people's artwork.
Hmm.
That is all the emails. For now, there is another YouTube comment that we'll
Oh.
just very quickly cover.
throw
It's
that
just
one up.
just a nice little shout out to us from Jan Ashbridge 7420, who said, "Love those Christmas jumpers
From the Christmas
on the
episode.
Christmas episode." So thank you very much.
Do you know what? We're going to have to get different Christmas jumpers for next
Oh,
year.
I've seen some good ones already.
I've already seen some as well.
Some-
So yeah,
Some that are more my kind of thing, like sci-fi or that kind of thing. Star Wars, the Lord of the Rings.
you were wearing a Star
Jurassic
Wars
Park.
one.
But there's some that's really cheesy and ugly. And
Oh no!
now it's torn me. Do I go super cheesy, super ugly?
Well, let us know what you
But-
think. Should he go super cheesy and super ugly, or should he go super nerdy reference?
Yeah.
But
That's it. That's it for these for our interactions.
well, you can do that by either sending us an email at thenathistorykcupboard@gmail.com, or you can send it to us on our whatever social media platform you are interacting with us on, whether it be TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We basically try and answer those as soon as possible. Also, the other thing I think that's worth mentioning at the moment is our bracket thing of basically working out who is going to be the animal of 2024. We've already had the first few animals fall out at the wayside, shall we say. The selection has been going on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok over the last week.
Do you
So
have
they'll-
any ones in particular that you want to win out of those groupings?
I'm not saying anything because
Fair enough,
I'm
fair
not
enough.
going to
You don't want to influence.
skew anyone any way or the other. There are some really hard ones out of those to pick because some of them are. I will say the only one that I am biased towards is the Indian ringneck. More than others.
Yeah.
But I would say at the same time that all of the artwork is really well, laid out and really well done, and all of them have the ability to feature on shirts and hoodies and everything that is on our Teemill store as well. So don't wait until the end of these being fighting it out. If you are interested in having one of those, you can actually specially request one through us, and we can get that sorted.
That's a good
as
point.
well.
If you don't see them, because Teemill only allows us to display a certain number, so
Yeah.
if you don't see the species that you want on Teemill, give us a shout and we'll put it up there for you.
Yeah, it's always an interesting one to work out.
Drew's done sometimes it's so hard to pick between the species for these brackets because because you're choosing based on the artwork.
Yeah.
And Drew has put a phenomenal amount of talent into it.
And it's going to be interesting to see which ones come down to it. I know that he's already talked to me the other week and said he's worried that his particular favorite one won't make it through because he thinks it will fall out to other ones which he thinks are better artwork. But I personally think the one that he's after is actually one of the
I
best
think it's
ones.
going to win.
So
I think that one's going to win that
I
bracket.
wouldn't. I would not be surprised if it comes down to that one and maybe one other. But yeah, that is going on our social media at the moment. So check that out and add your comment to basically get the one that you want to go through, and then we'll break it down further as it goes. So like I say, that's on all of our social media where you can find us. But one other way that you can find us is by becoming a Patreon member, which Aaron is going to tell us about now.
That's right. Every week, we like to give a little love back by shouting out the names of our wonderful Patreon supporters.
That's right. These are the cupboard dwellers who are kind enough to support us through a monetary contribution, for which we are eternally grateful and grateful beyond words.
And those people are, of course, Fogtober, Jen Greenhall, Connie P, Chelsea McKee, Nick to Nick, and Matt Geddy.
Guys, your financial contributions are actively helping us out here in the Natural History Cupboard in a myriad of ways, including developing our new studio, planning excursions and being able to go out and film on location, considering technical upgrades, and actually making the jump from a solely audio-based podcast to the now growing YouTube channel. And we really can't thank you enough for that.
Now, we appreciate all of our cupboard dwellers and the support you offer us through listening, liking, sharing, and subscribing. But if you feel we've earned it and you're considering joining our Patreon, there are two options through which you can do so.
That's the Nature Nerds and the Animal Ambassador tiers, which you can find on the Patreon website or links through our social media as well. And each one having different benefits for you to enjoy.
And now back to Gareth and Aaron in the studio. And once again, we can't express how grateful we are to our Patreon supporters. So thank you.
Massive thank you. And that, well, pretty much brings us to the end of this week's episode, I think.
That it does.
So a massive thank you, Aaron. That was a really good speedy feature.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
It's okay. Let's see if I can get home now. See if it's not frozen outside.
It's not frozen, yeah.
And a big thank you to you at home for listening. And we'll see you next time here in the Natural History Cupboard. Bye.
Bye. So Gareth, my turn to tell you a bad joke.
Yep.
Yeah. Try not to laugh challenge. I laughed before I said it.
Different reasons, but okay, go on.
What do you call a restaurant chain owned by a cheetah?
I don't know. What do you call a restaurant chain owned by a cheetah?
Fast food. Oh, God.